welcome to Back and Boarded. I'm Tabitha, this is my husband,
Mike.
And this week we are talking about death and superheroes.
And we, instead of just going off and just naming off and listing them, we wanted to look at 4 of them that are generally well known. And we're going to start off with Superman. I mean, he's the archetype of a superhero. And as of course everybody knows, we're talking about planet Krypton. He feels left out.
Wasn't it called something else?
No, it's Krypton.
Was it? Okay.
Krypton.
You know, I'm thinking about the S on his shirt.
That's his house signal.
Okay. Yes.
House sigil.
Okay.
Excuse me.
All right.
Yeah, it's the S stands for House of L.
House of L. Okay. I think I heard that from the movie.
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, it's really basic. I mean, his death is very impactful, whether we want it to be a personal death or not. I mean, I don't know if they've ever done an accurate count of how many people were living on Krypton.
Now, well, of course, I'm speaking to the movie, not the comic. I haven't really read the comic. But the movie, it just kind of focuses on his parents. I mean, you know that the planet is inhabited.
Yeah, I mean, and usually in the comics, Jor-El is this little holdout who is screaming that the planet is going to be destroyed.
It's
we
a
need
scientist,
to do something.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, there's little changes as time goes on. Superman's origins have changed tiny bits. Not so much that the planet was being destroyed. That's always kind of been there.
Right.
But more along the lines of how he was shipped out. Of course, later on we have others. There's another city, Argon, where that is now shrunk. It's miniaturized, where his cousin Supergirl comes from, in at least the Silver Age. But the death is really important with him because it's the only reason he's on our planet. But another fun fact about Superman, if you want to be morbid in that sense, is that usually, if I remember correctly, in the Golden Age, he didn't leave off to Metropolis until his parents had died, and he just left the farm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So back when he couldn't fly.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Does he leap and
faster
than a
speeding bullet, leap tall buildings in a single bound, and
yes.
I feel really horrible. I can't remember the rest of that.
I'm sure one of you can finish that for us.
I'm sure, and as soon as we're off camera,
like I said,
I'll remember.
Not an expert. I just love the stories.
I mean, that has to hit you. You find out, like, oh yeah, you're an alien. Your planet. You find out little crystal if you're going off the movie. Yep, your planet died. We sent you here to be the best hope.
So you're saying that Superman lost both set of parents?
Originally, yes.
Biological parents and also his adoptive parents?
I know modern continuity,
wow.
It usually is that they found him when he was younger. I believe in the original Action Comics, the Golden Age era Superman, they were actually an older couple that found him, and they were childless.
I think I've heard of that before. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to commit some blasphemy here. I know Lois and Clark's Superman that ran in the early 90s had him have older parents. They were still alive.
Right.
Whatever you want to say about that show. I remember really enjoying it. It helped get me into Superman when I was a kid. So, so he's really, I mean, death is just kind of floating around. He's really focusing on, just keeping everybody as alive as possible without being a complete tyrant.
Right. So, with death in Superman's life, so you're saying that he lost both sets of parents. But isn't Superman one of the few characters in the superhero world that tries not to kill people?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
so do you think that's anything to do with his backstory of, his death early on, and he really just wants to make the world a better place? He has the power to pretty much destroy everything. Right?
Superman is the idealism of that classic saying, truth, justice, and the American way. It's unachievable. Superman, I believe, has caused a couple deaths here or there. I know in
the movie it did.
Let's not talk about Man of Steel.
I was like, what? Superman doesn't kill people?
I don't like, you know what, I'm not even mad at that scene.
Yeah.
Superman snapping Zod's neck in Man of Steel does not upset me. The way they portrayed that Superman is what upsets me.
Okay.
He lashes out a lot harder, but that is a complete video for another time.
Yeah, it's a different subject,
Okay. But Superman really is, he wants to embody that perfectness where everybody gets that chance to be fairly judged. He may have gotten it wrong. He tries not to claim to be omnipotent. Yeah, I pronounced that word really beautifully.
Omnipotent?
Thank you.
Okay.
But so he truly wants people to get their fair shake. As outdated as we can say that is, that's for another time. But Superman, that is what he is embodying.
Okay.
And it's
So
caused
he's justice.
truth, justice in the American
Truth,
way.
justice, and the American way.
And that has caused some controversy.
And that
over the
was the
years.
catalyst for him to take
Yes.
that journey. Okay, there's Superman. Next.
Next, we're going to be talking about Captain America.
Captain America. Steve Rogers.
Steve
Real
Rogers.
name, right?
Yes.
Yes.
The
Okay.
puny kid from Brooklyn.
Yes. See, before we get into his death, sometimes you talk about this new word in comic world. It's called recon.
Retcon.
Retcon of how what is seen in the comic story, sometimes with creative freedom,
Yeah, that would be the good word for it.
changes in the movie. And so
Well,
I
not
want to make
even-
sure that
not-
okay, go
Not
ahead.
even just the movies,
Not
though.
even just the movies.
Retcons is actually an older term for stuff that they had changed in comic continuity.
Honestly, I didn't know it was all.
And I'm sure it's been
too.
used other ways, but that's
Right.
the only place I've ever heard retcon used. It's
Right.
usually for comics.
So I wanted to make sure that the Steve Rogers we saw in all of the fantastic, wonderful Marvel lines wasn't retcon from the comic story. But it sounds like it was pretty linear. At least
Fairly
the beginning
accurate.
of his life, Steve Rogers.
Yeah, skinny
Okay.
kid. I believe he in the 80s comics under Roger Stern, he had talked about how he was really sick as a kid. His mom struggled in the depression to make sure that he survived. There's a brilliant Avengers storyline called Under Siege, where a group of villains actually take over the Avengers mansion, and one of the things that helps push Cap over the edge is they destroy the only photograph of his mother he has left.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Steve is that guy. I mean, depending on what era you're looking at, there's been some little retcons with him. Compared to the movies, Bucky was not his best friend growing up. Steve was very much of a loner.
And Bucky was the Winter Soldier.
Winter
correct?
Soldier, yes.
Okay, all right.
He is more of this little kid. He was a teen sidekick for the 40s, and they kind of changed that. They've retconned that as we've gone on, because obviously no 16-year-old being 16 was going to go fight in the war with Captain America.
Right.
So there's been some little retcons throughout the whole thing.
Now there was soldiers at that time, or citizens
They snuck
who
in.
would lie about their age to get in, so it could be a little believable, kind of.
In the sense that Bucky was, in the original comics of what I've read, because Golden Age comics, the Golden Age era is not my forte. I've dabbled with Wonder Woman and a little bit here and there, but not extensively. But from what I remember, he was more of like a camp mascot. His dad was like a soldier who died, and he kind of stayed, because Cap didn't go fight on the front lines per se. He was there to help stop sabotage on the mainland in the U.S. He fought with the invaders, which was Namor, the original Human Torch, not Johnny Storm, but John Hammond, who was actually an android. Basically, Bucky was kind of the camp mascot, and he found out that Steve was Captain America and kind of convinced them that he could help Captain America.
Okay.
Later on, it was retconned that these little fantastical war story tales that seep through the Marvel Universe were really propaganda pieces by the U.S. government. Bucky was an assassin, and that's kind of what led into the Winter Soldier arc. All this was done by a brilliant writer named Ed Brubaker in the early 2000s.
I think I've seen his name on some of
You've probably
comics.
seen his name
Yeah.
sticking behind you.
Yeah. Okay.
And the Winter Soldier actually is his creation. Winter Soldier did not exist until the 2000s when Brubaker took over.
So let's talk about death with Captain America. So clearly being a World War II veteran and being in battle, destruction, lots of death,
Morality.
morality. He lost his family, right? Because
I think his mom had died by then.
Well, that's what I mean, because wasn't he was frozen, right? Somehow.
But yeah, but that has nothing to do with World War One. Him becoming Captain
World War
America.
II,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Him becoming Captain America is because he was this skinny guy, once again very Superman style in that sense, wanted to do what was right. He wanted to defend people.
So he had a sense of justice. Okay.
And so he was willing to take stupid risks. I mean, we can look at it now. I want to say the original usage of the term was vitamin rays. That's what gave Captain America from little skinny.
Oh, it's a science experiment.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
and there's only one of them because after the first initial test experience, a Nazi spy killed the guy who created it, and that's why we only have one Captain America.
Oh, okay.
There's actually a bunch of fun little.
So no one wrote down the formula?
He only had it in his head. He was a defector from Germany. But so Steve is there for his morality. Death, the only reason he got the chance to be Captain America is because his morality, and he wanted to stop endless killings pushed him on. I mean, he's a fascinating character in that regard.
So is it safe to assume that his character of Steve Rogers, before he became Captain America, probably saw a lot of death in the world, in the war? Or because of what he was positioned?
No, because he was...
what you say, he wasn't on the front line at that time.
He was a 4-H reject, so he was malnutrition, flat-footed, all that. He couldn't get in.
So he has some rejection issues, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Steve definitely has
self-esteem.
But he also was very... very prideful in that sense.
Okay.
Like Steve...
Where was he from?
Brooklyn.
He's from Brooklyn, okay.
Brooklyn.
Okay.
Marvel Studios was in New York.
So maybe a little tough guy?
Probably.
Inside? Yeah.
I mean, he's gone so far that in certain points in the comics, he has literally turned his back on the U.S. government and gone under a different name. Okay. He actually quit being Captain America. He went by the name of Nomad for a while there with a stupid cape. Captain America with a cape. It was bad.
So we have a character in difference to Superman, where Captain America's storyline isn't rooted in death. But after he became Captain America...
Well, he became Captain America because we were already in the war.
Right. But death at that time, because now he's in the front lines.
Yeah, after Captain America, he sees it.
More senseless killings.
And then, of course, he stops a missile and gets frozen. And this is where Marvel's sliding timeline comes in. Originally...
Talking about in the movie?
No. Period.
Okay.
In the movie now, it doesn't count as a sliding timeline, but in the comics... Originally, he re-debuted in the Silver Age in Avengers issue number 4.
Okay.
He was not a founding member of the Avengers in the comic books. Those are... Actually, in the movies, only 3 members of the movie Avengers were actually founding members.
Okay, so a marketing ploy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cap was not a founding member.
Okay. But Cap is sellable. Right?
It was a big risk, actually, I think, in the 60s, because Cap would kind of... It wasn't like he was a bygone, but he became more of a man-at-a-time story, which we see in, like, Winter Soldier and Civil War, and so on.
Okay.
Cap. Morality, death, the only reason he's there is because people were dying and he wanted to do something about it.
Right. He was there to save American soldiers, right?
He was just there to save people. He didn't care.
Okay. All right.
Cap's never cared. He's there to save people.
Okay. To do the right thing.
And punch Hitler.
Okay. Alright, so next on our review list is the life of Peter Parker, also known as Spider-Man. Is that the wrong tune? I feel like it is. I feel like it's
that was the Batman 66.
It's a collaboration of different things, right? Spider-Man. I forget. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Or the Electric Company. What? Spider-Man was on the Electric Company.
The Electric Company.
Spider-Man was on the Electric Company.
Okay. I didn't know that, but I know the show.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Spider-Man.
Okay, so...
Easy one. Uncle Ben. Right?
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben.
With great power comes great responsibility. I mean, we're getting into the dark side.
Speaking of Uncle Ben, before we get to Uncle Ben, what happened to Peter's parents? I just thought about that. I was like, wait a minute. He was living with his aunt and uncle.
Okay.
What happened to the parents?
So, Peter's parents. Nobody knows.
It's an untold story? In this world and time, we have an untold story?
There's been some horrible attempts at shoehorning.
In the world of in the world of constant series and movies 1 through 10, there's no
there is an issue called Amazing Spider-Man -1.
-1? That
-1.
No sense.
It was a string in the mid-90s where they did these -1 issues for all the series. They skipped the month and went -1.
Okay.
Where they did these weird flashback tales for everything, and it basically tried to shoehorn in the idea that Peter Parker's parents were spies for S.H.I.E.L.D. and they died on a mission saving the world. So basically, they died, and he ended up right after... Like, Peter went to live with them after he was like 7 months old, and he grew up raised by his aunt and her husband, his Uncle Ben. So, yeah. There's been some other weird retcons that involve... There was
so we have a supposed death of his parents.
There was a possible retcon that Aunt May is actually his mother, but she gave up the kid to his parents because she was too young. and then she got him back because the parents died. We don't want to talk about. There was a comic book series
a lot of crossing
mid '90s
timelines there.
through from mid '90s on. Spider-Man is a mess.
It's like a Jerry Springer show.
The comic series was called Trouble. Do not read it. It is horrible.
I may have been your mom, but I'm acting as your aunt, and I don't know who your daddy is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's weird. I may have even gotten that wrong. It's been so long since I read a couple of those issues. It was so stupid that I have moved on. It is considered arguably one of the worst comics Marvel's ever put out.
Have any of you guys heard of -1? If you have, please comment below and let us know.
Yeah, there was some
I'll be
fun
interested
ones.
to learn more about that.
X-Men had a fun one where
Is it in a tray bag?
I don't know if they're collected. To be
Okay.
honest, they happened at a certain point. There was a weird.
It's like a
weird
fad or
month.
something?
No,
or?
it was a weird month-long thing. That was like, oh yeah, let's
try
take
it.
our major issues and let's stop their major production for a month and
Okay.
we'll do a flashback series.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
There was some good ones. There was some not so good ones.
Okay. Right. As in all things.
So, but
Yeah.
Peter, back on topic. Peter is death. We're getting to the melodrama. Like, I was 15, I gained superpowers, I decided I was going to be a star.
Right. And we all know a 15-year-old boy with superpowers probably isn't the best
dumb.
combination.
So he starts off with his little pro wrestling gig, and then he decides to go on television and be the Amazing Spider-Man. That's how the name comes about. He was going to be he was going to be basically a TV sideshow for a little bit, make some money. Because
Question: did the spider really?
Yes.
Was it okay? All right.
Yes, there's that. In the main continuity of Spider-Man, he did get bit.
Okay. All right.
If you go by the Sam Raimi films, he got organic webbing. That didn't happen. Peter was a science nerd. He built his web shooters.
Right. I can
He
tell he wasn't
developed
like
his own
part of whatever's considered popular in high school.
No.
Right. Okay.
Never.
All right.
Although, fun fact, he did defeat one of his first major villains using a vacuum cleaner.
Interesting.
Sandman.
Interesting. Wow.
He got sucked up with a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
But, of course, great power comes great responsibility. He let the thief go. Somehow the thief went from downtown New York City to the suburbs of Queens, decided to rob that particular house and shoot, and trying to get away, shot his uncle and died.
All right. So, right, because Uncle died because of
He
him,
let that guy go.
Right? Yeah, and so he had that guilt connection, and he was already Spider-Man
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah,
Correct?
as
Okay.
on TV.
On TV. Okay.
He was trying to sell himself as a TV
So
personality.
would it be okay to make the connection that his uncle's death kind of made him grow up a little bit?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
because the police said they found the guy. They cornered him in a warehouse. He snuck in and found out it was the guy he let go. The mugger,
Major guilt, lifetime guilt.
the mugger or the robber, I can't remember how they usually refer to him. He's made little minor appearances on and off. He's gotten out and was looking for redemption from jail. So, but yeah, and Peter just stayed with that whole fact that being a Spider-Man, the superhero, is 100% guilt for Peter Parker.
Okay. So what attributes did Spider-Man develop as a result of the death of his uncle, Uncle Ben? Would you say?
Major complex where he feels that everything that can go wrong is his fault.
Yeah, so he overcompensates.
Oh,
Is
completely.
he a big people pleaser?
I would argue that Peter is a people pleaser.
Uh-huh.
He does have those tendencies, but I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan.
Okay.
But Peter, yeah, he's a total people pleaser. And then if we're going to talk about deaths that affect Spider-Man, because he's quit being Spider-Man enough times, he's been hounded because he doesn't want to show it. And then we got to talk about Gwen Stacy.
Okay.
His first love, Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, the original Green Goblin, figures out who Peter is, kidnaps her, in a giant tussle off the Brooklyn Bridge, I believe it is. She gets thrown. Peter tries to save her, webs her, and she dies from sudden stop.
From sudden, like falling from a building, sudden stop, or
Webb stopped her and she snapped her neck.
oh no, that's in a comic.
That is in the comic.
Oh my gosh, because that cut didn't make
And
any of
then-
the movies, right?
It was attempted.
Okay.
There was always a little teaser for it. I believe in the Sam Raimi ones, it was with Mary Jane, but he saved her. In the Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield, They do kill her that way.
Okay.
Gwen dies.
Gwen dies.
Like, she's
Okay.
Uncle Ben.
So another death in Peter Parker's.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's a bad running show. Peter always, like, later on in the 90s, his aunt finally dies, but she comes back. It's weird.
I have a question. Does the Peter Parker character ever mature? Like, I know he gets older, but does he ever... Because, like, all the movies I've seen, he's always... And it could be just the actor's interpretation of Peter Parker, but I feel like he never develops, like, what we consider an adult sense of maturity.
The newest Spider-Man, they still have him in high school.
Okay.
So that you're not going to get that. Andrew Garfield was still kind of in high school. You had...
But in the movies, he wasn't always in high school. Like, he...
For the Sam Raimi ones with, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He moved on. And he kind of didn't. I would argue that one was kind of closer. As different writers took over, especially Roger Stern and J.M. Mateus and Peter David. They took over in the 80s. Peter did grow up. Okay. And then the 90s happened, and now they try to keep Peter a certain way. And it doesn't work. J. Michael Straczynski's Peter Parker in the early 2000s, I think he grew up a lot. But it gets retconned.
Okay, so how death affected this character is made a bit of a people pleaser. He lost a very important male figure in his life, and he felt directly responsible for that death, and so that kind of carried with him throughout his character development.
And
right?
it's now become a trope. If Peter loves you, you're probably gonna die sometime.
Oh goodness, don't want to be part of that family.
No.
Okay. All right, our final character that we're going to discuss is, I think I get the right tune. Batman, right?
66. Okay.
The Adam West version.
Okay, I don't hate the Adam West Batman. I've grown past the hate. I've started to love it again. But I wanted to go more for a Batman the Animated Series theme song.
All right.
That's my Batman.
Okay.
But it's okay. I can't hum that orchestra score anyways. But Mr. Vengeance himself, the Batman.
The Bat. Bruce Wayne.
I mean, what can you say? He is
life
Batman.
Riddled with grief from the beginning.
I can't think of a single adaptation of Batman that doesn't... I take that back. I don't think they ever killed the Waynes in the Batman 66 television show.
I can't speak to that because I don't remember watching the very first series. So...
I would have to look that up. I will leave that as
Adam West, and let us know if they actually kill his parents in the 60s.
I mean, I'm sure it's talked about.
TV show.
Like everything else,
maybe they didn't show, but maybe they refer to it.
I don't know. That might have been too campy for that show.
Yeah.
Here we are talking about death, and we're talking about the happy version of Batman. Like the 40s and 50s serials. I'm pretty sure they talk about his parents dying. Okay. Definitely Tim.
So let's just speak to the Batman that most people, the Batman that is known today.
We're talking about either the Tim Burton Batman, the Batman the Animated Series,
the Christian Bale Batman,
the Nolan Batman,
or
well, I take that back. Not our latest Batman, not the Ben Affleck Batman.
Right.
Let's not talk about Martha jokes. But the Robert Pattinson Batman.
Oh, that's the one that's coming,
yes,
right?
The new Batman.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm sure the Waynes are going to die in that film, too. Tim Burton
Whether it be in a sense of a flashback or something, we have to have
to be honest,
an homage to the Waynes.
Outside of the Batman 66, I have clear images of the Waynes dying in every form of Batman media. Like, it gets played off. You had them die with... You ever danced with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight with Tim Burton?
And the actor was Jack Nicholson, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Was it Jack who played in that scene, or a younger person portraying it?
Well, I don't know if it was him, but it was based on his Joker. Yeah. Yeah.
I know it gets mentioned a little bit in Batman Returns. It's the entire plot of Batman Forever. Maybe the Waynes don't die in Batman and Robin? Or at least it gets mentioned because Alfred's going to die in that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That's the Batman movie people don't like to remember.
Okay.
I know they gets talked about in Batman Animated Series. It gets talked about in the Batman animated series movie Mask of the Phantasm.
Clearly, it's in a comic run, right?
Yes.
I know there are many different.
Of course, it happens in
universes.
the Christopher Nolan Batmans. Yeah. It's the joke of Batman versus Superman.
Right. Yeah. Is it a joke that never ends? Like a killing joke?
No.
No. I'm out of my league now.
Good reference to a comic, though.
So let's go back to Death and the Waynes.
Yeah, I mean, literally, kid watches his parents get killed. Decides he's going to go off into the world, train, and come back and punish criminals.
But he doesn't do it right away, right? I mean, he's still a kid when it happens.
8 when it happens.
Right. But
that doesn't happen until we get Robin.
Right. Yeah, it's traumatic. He gets those are his life, and then we fast forward to.
Arguably, this is the give me. Anybody who knows Batman knows Batman's parents died. Like,
sure.
it legitimately... It's so bad that there was one point at a San Diego Comic-Con a couple years ago where a couple masqueraded or cosplayed as the Waynes, and anytime they ran into a Batman, just dropped dead for pictures.
Oh my God.
I'm sure they've done it a couple times, but I remember it being a thing a few years ago. But no, Batman is defined by this death.
Yeah.
So much so that
unresolved. What's the word I'm looking for? Just
anger.
Anger, yeah, unresolved anger.
I am vengeance.
Yeah.
I am the
Grief
Knight. I am
loss.
Batman.
Yeah, and clearly he didn't receive any type of death counseling.
Well,
you know,
you
would think with someone with that much money. Then we have a psychologist, a child psychiatrist, somebody
that has come into some interesting contentions with retcons.
All he had was the butler. It wasn't a butler, some type of special forces soldier.
Originally, Alfred was kind of a dumpy character. I mean, originally Batman, the Batman everybody knows now doesn't carry guns. Not because he can't use a gun, but because he doesn't like guns. The original Batman in the Golden Age shot and killed people.
In the comics?
Yeah. The original couple, it didn't happen long. It was, like, people like to hark back to that, but it wasn't a big running thing. But I mean, Batman is death. Like, as we've gone back and retconned it a couple times, there's been talks about how he had therapy. Like, that a recent controversial take on a run that just ended was that at one point Batman was suicidal as a child. Fans didn't like that because I guess it weakened Bruce in their minds. Yeah. But let's be honest, you watch your parents get gunned down around you.
You're gonna have some issues. Yeah, you're gonna have some life void. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you were talking about Jack Nicholson's character.
Some life defects, I should say.
Jack Nicholson's character in the Tim Burton Batman in '89, where it's obviously the Joker killing the Waynes. In the comics,
they never identified, right?
He's just the guy who killed the Waynes.
It's just because Gotham wasn't a safe place. Gothic City. Gotham.
Yeah,
Gotham. Yeah.
Yeah, the movies have really tried to give it an identity, but one of the big leading things is
a senseless killing.
Just a senseless random killing.
Because the movie kind of shows that they were targeted, right?
Yeah. They try to show it.
There was some type of
There's always little tiny connections.
Yeah. And my thing is, why did he have bodyguards? This guy was a billionaire, right?
One of the big things was because Thomas was not a person like that, because he didn't run the business, the Wayne Enterprises. He was a surgeon. His wife was a socialite, but very big into charities, and she wanted to show that anybody could be in Gotham.
Oh, okay.
Took a turn down the wrong alley.
Right, and two lives crashed.
Yep.
One walked away, and two were...
One of the other major figures...
lying on the sidewalk dead.
That gets brought up in Batman lore as helping him with his trauma, even though she couldn't direct him, because you're talking about therapy, would be Leslie Thompson. She was created by Dennis O'Neil, who is the guy who remade Batman as we kind of see him now. He remembered some darker Batmans when he was a kid, and he helped create Ra's al Ghul. He brought the Joker back into prominence. The Joker Fish would be one of it. Him and writer Neil Adams really didn't make him super dark. I can't do anything. He made Bruce just as much of an important aspect as Batman. Bruce is very much I know there's a lot of people who like to play off in the Mask idea that the death shattered him, that Batman is who he is now.
Right.
But good writers actually make it that the same person. Bruce does as much as he can for Gotham using money and charity, and when that doesn't work, he goes out and punches people.
And he operates under the cover of darkness.
Yes.
Like a bat. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they scare me.
True.
So, death.
And superheroes.
Yeah.
They are related.
They are.
Yeah.
It's an easy common.
Some would say maybe necessary in
Yes.
some component to develop the superhero's character. Yeah.
I mean,
and his values.
It's easy to make relatable. A lot of people, like you have some sheltered people who don't experience, but death is something that's easy to make relatable.
Right.
As sad as that is to say.
And everyone responds differently, as you could tell from the characters that we talked about.
Yes.
Some took the revenge route, Batman.
The high route, which is Superman. The morality route,
Captain America.
Guilt, Spider-Man.
Peter
and
Parker, yeah.
Vengeance.
Yeah.
So, what death do you think shaped your favorite superhero? Go ahead and just throw that down in the comments. This has been Bag and Boarded. I'm Mike.
I'm Tabitha.
If you could hit subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, we'll see you all next week.
See you next time.
Bye.